Friday at 7 p.m, your weekend sports on Talk Radio Europe with the Friday Sports Bar.
Thanks for choosing Talk Radio Europe and the Friday Night Sports Bar with me, Dom Aldworth. It's the last show for 2012. We're coming to you live from the studios with me, Richard Tilsley. Well, me, Dom Aldworth, should I say, and Richard Tilsley. And Stuart Joseph, that's going to be joining us on the phone. Coming up over the next hour, the festive Premiership football programme continues. Manchester United now making daylight between them and second place. Not great news for tennis fans and Rafa Nadal. Unfortunately, his long-awaited comeback will be delayed even further due to illness. He's withdrawn from the Australian Open. Big weekend of Aviva Premiership Rugby, Rabo 12 Pro Direct Rugby as well. Leicester versus Gloucester, third versus fourth. All that and plenty more to come over the next hour. Stay with Talk Radio Europe for your hour of sport.
Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth. The Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth on Talk Radio Europe.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Friday Night Sports Bar. Very special, well, the very last edition for 2012. My sincere thanks to all the listeners out there that if you like your sport, that you've chosen between 7 and 8 o'clock every single Friday to tolerate us. Richard Tilsley here in the studio. Stuart Joseph, who joins us on the line as well from the Netherlands in his life of luxury, flying around all over the world, having holidays, but he still takes time out to join us. Gentlemen, my thanks to both of you for giving your time up over every Friday, literally for the last year or so. I just hope the listeners can bear us for another year next year, but thanks so much to all of you for tuning in. And gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the show to you, Rich in Holland, and Stuart in Holland, and Richard Tilsley here in the studio.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dom, and glad to be on the show, and was listening with great interest to your other appearances on Talk Radio today, Dominic.
The poor old listeners at Talk Radio Europe must have had an absolute gutful of me today.
I have to say, though, Dominic, after your rather indifferent performance in your specialist subject this morning in Mastermind, I really do think that you should have gone for your other specialist subject, which I had no idea you had such a profound knowledge about.
And what might that be?
Pornography. I was a bit taken aback listening this afternoon because I heard and saw a whole new side to you.
Listen, Rich, you know I've been looking at porn for years. Now, listen, don't believe anything that he's saying here, okay? For those of you that didn't tune into Hannah's Men Talk this afternoon, it's a nice show, serious issues, a little bit of fun. I mean, listen...
It's the way you could just reel off those titles. I was seriously impressed.
Well, listen...
I think you should ask Hannah if you could go back on Mastermind with your new specialist subject, and I think you'd probably get 12 out of 12.
I'm stunned. I don't know what to... This is why you had this little quiet grin before we went on air. You weren't saying too much. You were looking at me with these eyes like you had something on me, and you had something. But actually, it was in reference to the internet as well. And I don't look at porn on the internet. I've got my stash of magazines well under my bed where nobody can get their hands on.
A traditionalist.
A traditionalist. I don't use the internet for those sort of things. More importantly, gentlemen, we have to change the subject now because I really am getting very hot under the collar here. How on earth you could talk about pornography on a sports show? I don't know. We save that for Men Talk, for goodness sakes. Stu, how was your Christmas, mate?
Yeah, really nice, thank you. Had a good time. It's a bit cold down here, not like the weather you're experiencing, but with family it's always warm and very, 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 very precious. Very good.
May I suggest, if you're a little bit cold and things get a little bit small, look at porn. It works, definitely. Richard, how was your Christmas, mate? We haven't actually sort of expressed niceties yet since we've seen each other since Christmas Day.
Well, I told you the other week my recipe to get your Christmas Day off to the perfect start.
Just remind us what that is.
Well, it's the Bunwell Martini.
Oh, okay, here we go again. Okay, yeah, the Bunwell Martini. Okay.
Yeah, you see, and what you do is you get the bottle of vermouth, and because it's the magic of Christmas,
vermouth or vermouth, like everybody else normally calls it. Okay.
And basically, because it's a magical day, the light shines through the bottle and infuses your martini with the vermouth.
okay.
Or the vermouth. And you see, really, and it's just like the miracle of the virgin birth, you see.
And did you actually empty that bottle down?
You know, they're quite strong, but 2 on Christmas morning really does set you up very well.
Richard, that
indeed.
sounds absolutely wonderful. Fetch a bottle in next Friday.
No, it only works really on Christmas Day, you see. It's all to do with the miracle of the virgin birth, Stu.
Did you burn the turkey as a result of that?
I did overcook it slightly.
Did you have turkey or chicken?
Turkey.
Turkey.
Yeah.
You sure you didn't drink vermouth before you went shopping and thought you were buying a turkey but bought a chicken?
No, it was an absolute monster bird.
Was
it was an absolute monster. It was £24.
What have you done with the leftovers? Because you didn't have that many. Your mum was there, your son was over.
My dogs love me even more so.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
So you didn't make turkey croquettes?
A big bird for Wells.
Of course, Wells. He's got a big appetite, hasn't he? Like me.
He has.
Yeah.
Big dog.
You didn't save any for me. You could have made some sandwiches for us here in the Sports Bar studio. But no, you gave it to your dog.
Well, man's best friend.
Well, you're a single man. Yeah, well, okay.
And I am your only friend, so I suppose I should have at least brought you something, Dominic. I'll bring you a bit of Christmas cake next week.
Well, but a Christmas cake, what, 2 weeks old?
Yeah, but it's all right, because it's been sort of...
As in that marzipan stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, no, don't do that. No, thank you.
No?
No. Thanks for the gesture, though. I'm sure you can find something mouldy in your cupboards that you can bring in for me.
Well...
Well, in fact, I think we are now, Stu, going to finally change the subject and talk exactly why you're on the phone. Should we talk a little bit about football? There's plenty to get through, as we always have every Friday. Shall we just have a look back, just to cast our eye, Stu, if we may, over just so the listeners out there are aware that follow Serie A, obviously La Liga as well, which now are in winter breaks, where we stand in the league tables. We know that Bayern Munich is surging ahead clear. Their winter break already began a couple of weeks ago. But Serie A, it looks like Juventus are also grabbing the initiative there, and Barcelona certainly in Spain as well.
Well, Juventus are heading the break. They're well ahead of everyone, as we discussed last night. Against Inter Milan, the second, they've got 9-point lead, 44. Inter Milan have got 35 points. Napoli 34. Lazio 36. I mean, it's quite tight there. You've got 4 or 5 teams, below Juventus, all fighting for these big places. But I can't see anyone getting near Juventus. They seem to be going clear of the league. They won 3-1 their last game last Friday against Cagliari quite comfortably, and they seem to be, really taking over the Spanish league again this year. And I can see them, running away with the league. It seems to be going that way. In the Spanish league, where we know very well where we stand there, we have an incredible season here with Barcelona so far clear of Real Madrid. It's quite incredible, 16 points clear going into the new season now, or next year, I should say. But don't write off Atletico Madrid, because they've got 39 points behind Barcelona. They're having a very good run at the moment, getting some great results. And you never know. Barcelona could take their foot off the pedal, though I don't doubt they will. But it's making an intriguing battle up there. And of course, our dear team Malaga around the corner, doing so well in 4th place. Very exciting there. I hope they can have a good start to the season when everything continues in the new year. They've had a very good run, and that win against Real Madrid, I don't know if you all saw it last week. I mean, they were absolutely
that's why I just wanted to cut in there, Stu. Sorry for doing that, but we have to talk about Malaga's performance against Real Madrid. Not very often do the two sides meet with so few points separating them as well, or should I say Malaga in 4th and Real Madrid in 3rd. But what a tremendous performance by Malaga on the weekend, wasn't it?
Well, absolutely fantastic. I mean, they're just a few points behind Real Madrid, who would believe it. And the way they're playing at the moment, they're playing far better football, I think, than last year. I think the team without Cazorla, it's a strange thing to say, they seem to... Isco seems to have taken over that mantle, and he seems to be really running the whole show there, whereas last year he was showing it with Cazorla. He's playing some great football, but the team generally, they just seem to be playing with full of confidence, and they're a very, very exciting team to watch. I just hope they can maintain this during the early part of next year, because they mustn't have their eyes just on the European Championship game against Porto, which is obviously only around the corner in February. They've got to really continue to push for this 4th place. And if everything goes okay and the bills get paid and they can continue with another year in Europe, it can only make the team stronger.
What do you make... Sorry, Richard, looked like you wanted to say something, but I just wanted to highlight this. Casilla, the Spanish goalkeeper, Real Madrid, all his career, for the first time in 10 years, he was dropped by Jose Mourinho. What do you make of that?
Well, Richard thought yesterday when we were discussing it that it was the right decision, because he's been letting in goals, and always the goalkeeper will always take a blame when you're leaking goals, obviously. But I didn't think much of the goalkeeper that came in, and really, I don't know. He's still the Spanish international goalkeeper. He's had a bad run. I think defensively, that's where they're poor, Madrid. I didn't think it was so much the goalkeeping area. But Richard, you seem to think that it was the right move.
Well, as I said, 17 out of 26 goals conceded have come from set pieces. And when you look at those statistics, normally speaking, there's only two people that you look to blame. One is your two central defenders, and the other is the goalkeeper. And as we've seen, he's dropped Ramos a couple of times, and I suppose it was inevitable that he was going to drop Casillas, and maybe he needed a bit of a wake-up call. I mean, in the same way that you could look at Joe Hart of Manchester City, and I remember Roy Keane saying a few months ago that he's just become a little bit overconfident and a little bit too cocky, and and I think that perhaps the same could apply with somebody like Casillas, the legend that he is, and one of the greatest ever Spanish goalkeepers. The amount of trophies that he's won is absolutely remarkable. But even great players sometimes have a slight loss of form, and I think that one thing about Mourinho is that he is a very, very good judge of football players. And
you make a good point there, reference Joe Hart, because that goal he let in the weekend against Sunderland, or during the week when they lost 1-0, was a howler over there. I mean, the ball was virtually in his hands and just trickled into the goal. I mean, you could be right. Players need to be shaken up. Should never get overconfident, especially if you're a goalkeeper. And
certainly with Joe Hart, when you look at his season last year, and then compare it to some of the gaffes he's made this year, he's still a great keeper. But obviously, I mean, as you say, he needs some sort of kick out the pants to get him to focus a little bit more.
But don't you think also, with regard to Manchester City, they also seem off the boil as well. Their performances aren't as strong as what they were last season. They were a far harder team to beat.
Well, they can't score. They still have a very good defensive record, City. It's nothing. I mean, when you can look at Manchester United's defensive record, I think they've already conceded 28 goals this season. And I think in past years, I think that's the worst they've had since when they had Laurent Blanc and Barthez after the very successful triple season of '99. And normally, I mean, you'd say that obviously that tally of goals conceded is going to increase substantially in the second half of the season. And it would have almost, I mean, if they were to win the championship, the Premiership rather, we're having conceded 40-plus goals. I mean, that really would be quite unprecedented. I mean, in past seasons, I think they've conceded no more than 21, 24 when they've won the title.
Well, they conceded 16 in total so far, and as you say, there's going to be more goals conceded, obviously. But then, I don't know, if you look at Manchester United, they conceded 28. I mean, how do you make out for that? I know they're scoring goals at will, but they're also conceding goals, Man United. Well,
I think that, I mean, the goals conceded is a problem. But I think it's a far greater problem for Man City in the fact that they can't really get that huge array of striking talent at their disposal, clicking and scoring goals. And
you know why that is, Richard? Sorry to cut in, because I was thinking about that the other day. They've got no width, Manchester City. I feel that's their problem. They've got great attackers who play central up front, and who are great players, and they can choose two or three. But there's no width to the team anymore. Johnson was sold out to Sunderland. Not that he was great, but he's playing well for Sunderland at the moment. There's just no width there. Maybe in the transfer market in January, they go out and find a winger that can give a little bit more width to their game.
Well, you see, the thing is, I mean, that approach that Mancini takes can be very successful in Italian football, where they have the...
yes, agree. I agree.
The catenacci or the cat and mouse style of play, where everything is very, very congested in the midfield. It's very, very hard to get through. Very few goals are scored. But in the Premiership, you're playing against width in a way that you don't necessarily do in Serie A. And I think that last year, I mean, they were so heavy in the middle of in the centre of midfield. I mean, they just bulldoze through teams very often.
Maybe teams are reading a little bit better this year and see where their strength is, and obviously everyone wants to go out and stop them, as Sunderland did the other day. Yeah,
and the other problem, of course, that Man City have got is that they're losing their best player for the next month, and not their best defender, but he is currently their first-choice defender, which is Kolo Touré, and then obviously Yaya Touré, who's been by far their best player this year.
Yeah, that's going to be a big miss, you're quite right.
Gentlemen, we are going to talk about Premiership football. I just want to finish off the European roundup, if I may. I mean, it appears that Bayern Munich, Juventus and Barcelona are very well placed to move into 2012 and deliver some more titles there. In one country where it isn't, it's exceptionally tight, and that is the French League. And there is a growing interest in the French League because of the amount of money that's been spent at Paris Saint-Germain and the draw card that they now are for some of the world's top players there, Stu. But three sides tied on 38 points, all of them winning on the weekend ahead of their winter break. A very exciting season, certainly in French League, isn't it?
Well, I think so. I mean, I've seen some of the games of the French football. It's just very, very good football. And Paris Saint-Germain have got the wealth of talent, plus they've got money in the bank to buy if they want to improve their squad. They won 3-0 again on Friday. They're scoring 3s, 4s all the time. But keep an eye on Marseille and Lyon because they're having a very good run themselves. And as you say, it's very well open going into the new year. It's going to be very interesting to watch to see what happens. But you've got to fancy Paris Saint-Germain because you know when you've got that money behind you, and if you need another player that may come on the market, they're in there to buy and they can pay the wages. And unfortunately, that's the way the game seems to be going. But I wouldn't rule out Marseille in particular. I think they've got an excellent chance. Got a very good record recently as well. Though Lyon have got 20 points in their last 30 points available. So, but you can't rule any of these three teams out. I think it'll be cat and mouse right through to the end of the season. I certainly hope so because the other three major leagues we talked about seem all wrapped up, and it's a shame that you come to this stage of the year and you want to go forward next year, not looking for the minor places, but to see who will win the top championship in each country.
Premiership football, the festive season, lots going on. I don't know what you guys were doing on Boxing Day. I was wearing my elasticated pants and watching lots of football. And Tottenham Hotspur, what a tremendous result there against Aston Villa. Lowly Aston Villa, albeit 4-0 victory there for Spurs. You must be delighted with that.
I am delighted, but can I just mention, and Richard, I'm sure I'll come in here, we played Stoke last weekend and we drew 0-0. We could not break them down. We couldn't score a goal. Playing Stoke every week must be horrendous. For any team that comes up against Stoke at home knows they're going to have 10 men behind the ball. You've got to work out some plan, but I don't know how you get through it because their record is tremendous. But what I don't understand is they played Liverpool the other night, beat them well 3-1, played some terrific football. I'm sure you can't knock the manager. He's got a system that works. They gain points. They stay in the division. I'm not knocking that. But if they'd gone to Spurs the other week with a little bit more inventiveness, came out a bit in the second half, all right, they're going to lose the odd game. They can win these games. They could actually be a runner for a top 6 place. But playing this way away from home for a point or not to lose, I really don't get it. Again, I'm not knocking it. Any Stoke City fans out there, it works your system. But it's a shame because the team's got some talent in it. And they just lock up shop. Going back to Spurs the other night against Villa, well, unfortunately, it was like Arsenal with Reading the other week. Reading looked a very poor team when Arsenal ran out 5-2 winners. And the same thing this time. I take nothing away from Spurs. Gareth Bale was tremendous. Wonderful hat-trick. Puts his the price tag on his shoulders up by another 10 mil, I'm sure. But he looked tremendous. But they were a poor team, Villa. I know they're building a young team there. But it's very, very difficult when you've got young kids coming in. They just got the 8-0 at Chelsea, and then they come up against a Spurs team that was full of running. Yes, I was delighted, but I must admit I was a little bit sorry for Villa as well.
Great win for Chelsea. They're now sitting in third place, just ahead of Tottenham Hotspur, 35 points, a 1-0 victory away from home against Norwich. Juan Mata has been massively important to the Chelsea cause all season, hasn't he?
Well, I think Chelsea are on a run at the moment. I mean, the manager's taken over. He's got the team playing well. They've got the confidence back. I mean, what more can you want? They've just gained 6 points over the holiday period, with Norwich and with the Villa win. That Villa win was quite something. They just folded in the last 20 minutes, Villa, and conceded quite a few goals. But when you're scoring goals, there's nothing better. You come in after the game the following day, and the whole place is brimming with excitement, and the adrenaline is running with everyone. They can't wait to play another game. And that's it with Chelsea at the moment. They're playing very well. Whether they can get back into the run for the Championship, I'm not sure. They've got Everton away this weekend and QPR on the Monday. That Everton game's a hard game. Apart from going to Stoke, going to Everton must be the second hardest place to go to get anything. They're playing really well, Everton, at the moment, and it should be a cracking game. They
are playing very well, aren't they? The 8th Premiership League win of this season against Wigan on Boxing Day. 2-1. Definitely a hard side to break down, aren't they?
Very much. I mean, we've been looking at the game since the 15th of December on this holiday 5-game period. They got 7 out of 9. They drew away at Stoke, which we were just talking about, 1 each. They beat West Ham United 2-1 away, and they've just beaten Wigan 2-1, which was a hard game. Wigan played really well. In fact, Wigan are very unlucky. They've got no points over the Christmas period at all, and yet they've been playing some really good football, not getting the rub of the green. But Everton have got Chelsea home tomorrow, then Newcastle away. And another team there, Newcastle, playing some great football. That game against Manchester United the weekend, though they lost 4-3, they played some fabulous stuff, and they're not far away, I think, from getting some results together. But this Everton-Chelsea game tomorrow should be a fabulous game.
Manchester United, Newcastle, as you mentioned, 4-3. What a fantastic game of football that was.
Well, I think with Manchester United, I think Ferguson's feeling is just go out and score more than the opposition. You know, they just seem to be scoring goals at will. I mean, they've got great forwards to call from Rooney, who didn't play, but Rooney, Van Persie, Welbeck, Hernandez. You know, they've got a tremendous striking line there where they can pick players, and midfield, Smalling, Valencia, Young, Carrick, Cleverley. The only thing that worries me is their back four, because I think if Fidget stays fit, then I think they're going to go on and win the championship very early and very comfortably. I think Fidget's just the main line. But again, if you can attack Manchester United, that's where you can beat them. But you've got to score more goals to them, and that's the problem, I think.
The football continues tomorrow and on Sunday. The festive season continues. Let's have a look at some of these fixtures that are coming up over the weekend there. Sunderland against Spurs. You must want to go there and get 3 points, Stuart.
Well, absolutely. I mean, mind you, if you're asking me now, I'll take a point with pleasure before we go to Sunderland tomorrow. But Sunderland, are running high. They've beaten Southampton away 1-0. Manchester City, they've beaten 1-0. I mean, they're on a roll, aren't they? Full of confidence, full house will be there tomorrow.
How can you say there, as a Spurs fan, that you'd be happy to go there? You're 11 points clear of Sunderland. You're happy to go there and just get a point?
They're a hard place to go. It's not easy to go to Sunderland. Never has been.
But that's a typical DVD attitude, isn't it?
Okay, then I'll rephrase it. We're going to go there and probably win 2 or 3 goals tomorrow.
That's a bit late for that, though, isn't it? I mean, what do you make of that, Rich? He's a Spurs fan. They're going to Sunderland. They're not having... I mean, they're bottom half of the table. 11 points down on Spurs. Oh, we'll be happy for a point.
Well, to me, it's quite refreshing that Stuart has been afflicted by a dose of reality. And obviously he hasn't been drinking that much over the Christmas period.
He hasn't been drinking your Vimiv drink.
My martini.
I guarantee tomorrow Sunderland will play just one man up front. I'm sure this is how he put his team out. He'd be very content.
A few weeks ago, I mean, Stuart would be saying...
the draw tomorrow.
A few weeks ago, Stuart would have been saying, we're going to walk this, DVD, 3-0.
Bit of negativity creeping in there.
Yeah. Well, reality.
Reality. Negativity. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Well, I just feel that a point tomorrow will be fine. I really, really do. I'll be quite happy with that. We've got Reading at home on Boxing Day. I'm not saying that we're going to walk all over Reading, but I'm sure we can get 3 points there, and it won't be a bad Christmas if we can achieve that.
Aston Villa versus Wigan, bottom of the table clash. Villa just slowly but surely climbing the club away from the relegation zone, but the points-wise suggest that they certainly need 3 points themselves.
Well, here's an incredible, this is why the Premier League is the Premier League. On the 15th of December, they go to Liverpool and destroy them, win 3-1, and, they've just come through, they're in the League Cup semi-final. Again, the confidence in the team, and then they go to Chelsea, and, that just knocks the stuffing out of them. It's used over the Christmas, and that's a good word to use, the stuffing. But, to lose 8-0 and then Spurs 4-0, and then they've got Wigan at home, and Wigan, who are chasing something from this Christmas, oh, my God, that is going to be a really, really hard game. Should be quite entertaining, actually. I fancy Wigan to nick, at least, I reckon Wigan will win that game, actually. Then they can beat Villa at Villa. Wigan could beat Villa, yeah.
Well, the thing is about Wigan, they're so unpredictable, and who knows, they could go there and put in a tremendous performance, but I do think they've been certainly a little bit unlucky this season.
They're
Wigan.
playing well, Richard. They really are playing well. I've seen most of their games. Arsenal at home. How Arsenal got 3 points at Wigan on the 22nd of December, I think it was. I mean, it was just incredible. And the game, I saw the whole game live, and they just could not, they just had their chances. And I think, I know it sounds terrible being a Spurs supporter, but Arsenal, my God, they rode their luck that game. And I think Wigan deserve to get something out of that, but they're playing well every week.
Yeah, I mean, I think Roberto Martinez has done a great job, though, to be honest, I think that the sooner Wigan leave the Premiership, the better.
Well, why'd you say that?
Because they're just, as I said, a few weeks ago, they're a little club, they've got only, 16,000 or so for their home gate, and I think that when you have such a poorly supported club like that, they don't warrant a place in the Premiership.
But surely you warrant a place in the Premiership by performing week after week, in the Premier League, getting enough points.
Well,
above.
There's nothing wrong with these, if these teams come through and everything, and the local community get behind the team and start increasing the gates, then fantastic. But that hasn't happened in Wigan.
They've never had to support Wigan, have they? I mean, they always run about 15,000, 16,000. They never get big crowds down there.
And I think the thing is, I mean, I think realistically, it's very, very hard for these sorts of clubs to survive, especially with the new fair play laws coming in, when they can only get those sorts of gates. And so, I think the sooner that they're replaced by clubs that are better supported, the better. And also, when you see a live game and it's so poorly attended and there's huge gaps in the in the crowd, it's a bit of a sad spectacle, really, isn't it?
Well, they had 22,000 turn up for the game against the Arsenal, which was a big crowd. Mind you, Arsenal probably took a lot of supporters down there, but I agree that they're 50. I must admit, you're talking about crowds. I bet if you saw the attendances, there was nearly 675,000 I saw watch the two Boxing Day, the last Saturday and the Boxing Day fixtures. 675,000 people. I mean, that's incredible for 2 days of matches when you consider that the other leagues in Europe will close down for the break. I mean, what would one do? I mean, this Championship had over 400,000 for the 2 days. I mean, that's over 1.1 million people going to watch football over a few days. I mean, that's incredible attendances.
So you obviously don't think that we should have the Christmas break then, Stu?
No way. Do you?
No, I don't. It's a great part of the festive programme, isn't it, over Christmas?
Very much so. I mean, the guys like to go out and get out for a breath of fresh air, watching a game of football. The stadiums are packed. I mean, surely that's all about income. Making these teams financially stable.
Guys, let's just continue with what's happening. Another 600,000 will be watching them again tomorrow. Manchester United are at home to West Brom, who are enjoying their best season to date, currently sitting in 6th. Good, I can't see Manchester United not winning that one. Manchester City, however, go to Norwich, and Norwich will certainly feel that City are there for the taking.
That's a hard game. I really, it could be a cracking game, actually. I mean, Norwich are playing well. They've lost a few games recently, but they're still a hard team to beat at home, as you say. And then Manchester City has Stoke at home on Boxing Day. I mean, they're 2 hard fixtures. And City, if they drop another point, or Manchester United gain any more points, then that's it. You might as well call it a day, because there'll be no way back. So City have really got to pull out all the stops. 2 really hard games coming up now.
Also on Saturday, Stoke welcome Southampton, Fulham host Swansea, West Ham are away to Reading, but for me the pick of the fixtures on Saturday, Arsenal are at home at the Emirates Stadium to Newcastle.
Should be a cracking game. Really, really good. I fancy Newcastle here because, as we were saying before, Newcastle have been playing quite well recently, and especially against Manchester United, and I think they'll go there full of confidence. It's just a case if they can dictate midfield. That's where Arsenal win their games. But he's a brave manager, the Newcastle manager, and he'll probably go 4-4-2. I'd always go to the Emirates and play 4-5-1 if I was a manager. Richard will have a go at me and tell me I'm defensive away from home. But you've got to stop Arsenal's midfield. That's what you stop. If you can stop their midfield from playing, up front they're not that strong, and the back 4 are a little bit weak. And that's how I would play them. But I bet you he goes 4-4-2 tomorrow.
Sorry, do you want to add to that, Richard?
Well, yeah, except, I mean, a lot of people would say that very often the great managers do exactly what is least expected of them, and you only have to look at the last derby between Man United and City. City were at home, everyone expected Ferguson to pack the midfield with a couple of defensive midfielders, but he didn't. He played a couple of wingers, went for the jugular, won the game, and I think that's the difference between great coaches and average coaches.
You're 100% right, Richard. That did catch everyone out. Absolutely right. He really caught the whole City, the manager, everything out of context there, because they really gave them what for in the first half an hour. And you're right. Maybe one should be a little bit braver away from home, but you've got to face reality. Midfield, Arsenal are probably one of the strongest midfields, and if they control that, they run you. And it's a hard place to go, and I think you have to make sure you control that midfield.
Gentlemen, Super Sunday, Rafa Benitez has categorically said they have not ruled out their title chances. They still believe they're in the running. Chelsea take a real test of their character on Sunday at Goodison Park against Everton.
As you said, that should be a cracking game. I think it's the game of the weekend, even more so than the Arsenal game, actually. I think football-wise, that's going to be a super game, because Chelsea even go there, really wanting to get 3 points to stay in touch with what's going on in the top 2 above them, and I think it will be one of the best games over the weekend. I'm really looking forward to it.
QPR hosting Liverpool.
The only thing is, I mean, under Rafa, they've certainly tightened up at the back, Chelsea. And
that's how he plays, Rafa, doesn't he? He does Liverpool also from the back.
And he does have a very good record against Everton. Whilst he was at Liverpool, I think that's got 0-0 written all over it, that game.
You reckon? And what about QPR versus Liverpool? I mean, this is a must-win game for Brendan Rodgers' team. Certainly after their loss on Boxing Day, but
must-win game for Harry Redknapp.
For Harry Redknapp as well in QPR.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, if QPR don't win their next couple of games, I think they're going to, the Reading and, as well, they're going to be so far behind the other teams that there's just going to be no way that they can catch up with them.
Richard, they've got Liverpool at home, as you say, and then they follow that on Boxing Day with Chelsea away. I mean, there's 2 fixtures there for a team at the bottom. Look at those 2 fixtures. My God, what do you do? How do you play it? What tactics do you use? They're 2 hard games.
Extremely. I think both teams. I mean, I know that obviously their fans will try and be as sanguine as possible, but I think they're doomed.
Gentlemen, just looking at the clock, we need to go to a break, and you need to go back to your family as well, Stu. But before we let you go, we just want to talk a little bit about some transfer speculation and a couple of stories that were in the paper, which I picked up today. Napoli have turned down an offer for Cavani for 55 million euros. The club is undisclosed as to what made the offer, but it shows their intentions, obviously, to press forward in the Italian league. But surely if the offer is increased, if there was a pound sign behind that 55, Napoli couldn't say no to that.
I don't know the strength of their finances. It seems a hell of a lot of money for the guy. He's a great player. Whether he's worth that sort of money, I'm not sure. If he's worth that money, what price would you put on Gareth Bale?
Oh, goodness me. Well, you'd have to say there and thereabouts. I mean, Gareth Bale's still got a little bit more to prove in his career, doesn't he?
What?
I mean, Cavani's proved at international level, hasn't he?
Well, he's done it against great teams. Inter Milan. Milan, he destroyed them only a couple of years ago. I mean, people have seen him in Europe. He's scoring goals, all the time. He's fast. He's got everything. He's a tremendous player. There's rumours of Real Madrid putting in a 40 million offer. That won't buy him. Mr. Levy won't let him go for 40 mil. I'm sure he could be tempted, but it'll have to be at least 10 mil plus. If that's the money that's being bandied about.
Well, why are you talking about Real Madrid? Obviously, we know things aren't going very well at Real Madrid. We know the camp isn't very happy at all. There's speculation as to whether Mourinho is happy. We know he wants to return at some stage in his career to England. We also know that Ronaldo has quietly said that he'd like to return to Manchester United. He refused to sign an extension to his contract today, which would have put him on £15 million a year as opposed to the 10 until 2018. That certainly shows to me that he's trying to force Real Madrid's hand to sell him. He's got 2 years left on his contract.
Who's got the money to buy him, though, Dominic? Who's got the sort of money? What do they buy for? 80 mil from Manchester? Something ridiculous. I mean, who's got the bread out there to do it? Apart from, the Manchester Cities, the Paris Saint-Germain. There's not many clubs out there that could bid for him.
Well, you've got, Manchester City.
Well, maybe he'll just run his contract down and then leave on free.
And then leave as a free, you see. So, I mean, Madrid will have to sell him at some stage for something.
I can't see Madrid, even with whatever money they've got, let it run down to zero, let them go on a free. I mean, if they can't get him to sign a new contract very shortly, they'll want him now. I mean, I don't think no club can write that sort of money off.
What about a double leg, both to United, Mourinho and Ronaldo?
Could happen easily. But I'm not sure Manchester United got the money to buy him either.
You don't think they'd find the money?
Well, where from? I mean, I don't think the owners really will lay out that sort of funds. Those funds have gone into their accounts, and I don't think they want to see it leave. Not that sort of bread, and they won't want far short of, 50, 60 mil for him. He's got to be worth that, even if they take a small loss.
Richie, you look like you were going to say something, or...?
Well, I think that I don't think Ronaldo will go back to United. I think you have to move on, and...
Yes, you're right, I agree.
And it very rarely works when a player returns to a club. I mean, there's a few exceptions. I mean, when Ian Rush went back to Liverpool from Juve, but by and large...
Did he go to City, Richard?
Sorry?
Did he go to Manchester City?
No, when Ian Rush, he went back to Liverpool.
Back to Liverpool, it didn't work.
Yeah, no. Do you think Ronaldo would go to Manchester City?
Ronaldo will go to Manchester City? No, I don't. I think he'll probably let his contract run down and then, maybe one of the Italian clubs or Paris Saint-Germain, But I think there is at this transfer window. I mean, there's a lot of very interesting players who are about to be out of contract or who have disputes with their club that could be picked up very cheaply. I mean, people like Wesley Sneijder.
I was just going to say, Wesley Sneijder has been mentioned to be going to Spurs. I've read in about 3 different columns.
And there's also the young Spanish forward who a lot of people are talking about, and he's only got an 8.2 million buyout clause in his contract.
Who's this?
And that's Iago Aspas, the Celta Vigo forward.
No comment there,
Okay.
Yeah? Okay. And also there's...
he's very heavily rated in Spain. I mean, he's almost certainly going to be called up to the next Spanish squad by Del Bosque.
I thought one of the best things I read was that Newcastle were about to sign the Marseille striker, Luis Remy, for about 10 million. which means they're obviously going to unload Demba Ba, and he'd be I think in his contract he can go for about $7 million. The way I've seen Demba Ba play this year, I mean, he would be a fabulous buy for any club.
Well, Arsenal, I think, were linked, and they've said no, they're not interested. But one player that they are apparently monitoring is a guy called Charlie Austin, the Burnley striker.
Oh, really?
Well, I think he scored 23 goals in all competitions for his club this season.
There's also another one as well, guys. Of course, the small matter of David Villa at the age of 31 from Barcelona. £16 million price tag on him as well. Arsenal have got an eye out for him. He would be a good buy for anybody.
Well, with his experience, he'd be a wonderful buy for anybody. I mean, the guy just scores goals. It depends which club will suit him. He's not a youngster, obviously. It depends what they're asking for him. But he'd be welcomed, I'm sure, to the Premier League by quite a few clubs.
And then you've got the Polish striker, Lewandowski, as well. Sir Alex Ferguson has had an eye on him for quite a while now,
apparently
actually.
That's a done deal
for the end of the season, yeah. Yeah? Anything on that side that you've heard, Stu?
No, I've seen it in the papers. They say this guy's a really, really great player, and I'm sure he is. But, there's so much talking. That's what makes this so exciting, isn't it? We read all these things in the press, and, how many of these really come to conclusion? 2 or 3 of them. I read that Leighton Baines is being Manchester United and Chelsea looking to make it, and Paris Saint-Germain looking to make an offer to Leighton Baines. And why would Everton let Leighton Baines go? He's happy there. He's been there for years. If he needs a few more bob, give him a few more pound. All these things that make great reading, makes them sell papers and everything else. I mean, all the stuff that you've got in front of you and I've got in front of me. If I was to tick the boxes probably in about 30 days' time, 1 or 2 of these will probably come to a conclusion.
And we're going to be covering that transfer window, which begins very, very shortly. Stu, we're going to let you go because we need to go to a commercial break. You need to get back to your family responsibilities. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I believe you're back in town next week. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm back on Sunday, and may I wish you all a very, very healthy new year to everybody. And please God, it's a great year and a healthy year for everybody at the studio and the people out there as well.
All right.
Happy New Year, Stu.
Thanks, and to you, Richard. I'll see you next week in the studio.
And the same to you from me there, Stu, and thanks so much for your contribution as well over the last 12 months. Look forward to having more of that in 2013.
Thanks, Richard. Best wishes. Bye.
Cheers.
It's the Friday Sports Bar with Dom Ordworth on Talk Radio Europe.
Good evening and welcome back to the very last Friday Night Sports Bar for 2013. A special thanks there to Stuart Joseph for joining us on the phone on his holidays as well to talk about the football. A little bit of rugby, Premiership action, Aviva Premiership action. Rainbow Pro 12 Direct continued, and there were some Boxing Day fixtures. London Wasps defeated Sale Sharks 25 points to 18. Gloucester edged Exeter Chiefs by 18 points to 16. London Irish were thrashed by Leicester Tigers in a record score for the Tigers, 31 points to 9. Harlequins continued their superb form this season, defending champions Harlequins with an 18 points to 9 victory at Northampton Saints. Saracens absolutely drubbed Bath away from home, 22 points to 0, keeping the heat on Harlequins there. And the Worcester Warriors defeated London Welsh by 13 points to 6. That leaves defending champions Harlequins at the top of the table on 37 points, a point ahead of Saracens on 36, Leicester Tigers on 34, Gloucester on 33, Northampton Saints on 31, and Exeter Chiefs on 29. So very tight there at the top of the table. Unfortunately for Sale Sharks fans, it's been a terrible season for you. Only 1 victory in your last 11. London Irish second from bottom with only 2 victories in the last 11. And the Aviva Premiership action continues this weekend, and the big Premiership clash of the weekend is the Leicester Tigers in third place that host the Gloucester. Leicester Tigers host Gloucester in the big Premiership clash of the weekend. It's the last round of the Premiership of 2012, excuse me. The Tigers are unbeaten in December and sit third in the table, 1 place above Gloucester, with only 11 games remaining in the season as well. They come in off a tremendous win against London Irish, 31 points to 9. There'll be plenty of confidence there. They probably will have a little bit too much for Gloucester on the weekend, but let's just have a listen to what some of the experts think.
Hi, welcome along. Looking ahead to our live match this Saturday afternoon, round 12 of the Aviva Premiership, and we go to Welford Road for Leicester against Gloucester. Who's got the momentum going into this one, Pat?
I think Gloucester just edge it. They've come a long way this season. I think they've changed things quite dramatically from where they were last season, and I quite fancy them at the weekend. I think they've had a couple of good wins of late, and I like what they're doing in particular up front, and I think if they can get it right there and they can get parity against what's a pretty strong Leicester pack, I think they edge it behind they certainly edge it in the 3 quarters. So by 1 score, probably Gloucester.
Big shout away from home.
Yeah, I think it's hard to call because, you think of Gloucester of old, they go there and they try and play them off their feet. What was it, 40-odd points, for both sides, only last year. But Gloucester now are very different. They don't take a huge amount of risk. They've got a huge forward pack, which they try and smash everything about. Freddie Burns kicking the corners almost sounds like Leicester.
Yeah.
And you put that into the mix, and you just think, I can't quite call it. I think it's Leicester. I think Welford Road will count. I think weather conditions, and I just think Gloucester are evolving. And I think that sort of may just hinder them getting a win. But it is going to be tight. It is going to be a score.
I think you said, this is a huge test of exactly where Gloucester are right now. They're going to go to Welford Road against a side which are kind of matched up where they're matched up.
Yeah.
And if they're good enough to beat Leicester at Leicester, then you have to consider Gloucester as to be there right at the very depth.
Yeah, I think the only concern and doubt, and this is going to affect me ever having coffee in peace in Cheltenham again, but I just feel that Gloucester, if they fall behind, they haven't got the game to come and chase. Right. They've established a very solid, risk-free game. But have they got enough shape to be able to move it forward? I don't think they have.
Yeah.
Weather conditions mean some of their sparkly runners, like Sharples, there's no Simpson-Daniels, no May. They just lose a little bit of that firepower, and they're not cohesive enough. I don't think Leicester are on all cylinders at all, but they've got Toby Flood back, and they're at home. And I just think that might just be the margin that edges it.
Looking forward to it. We're split on the bench. It is third against fourth in the table, so a big one in the context of both sides' season. Leicester against Gloucester, 4:30, Sky Sports, 1 HD.
And other fixtures there on the Aviva Premiership this weekend. This evening, the Sale Sharks, desperate for a second win of the season, host the Worcester Warriors. The Exeter Chiefs host Bath. London Irish make the trip to Harlequins. Only one winner in that one for me. London Wasps are away to London Welsh. And then on Sunday, Bath, it appears, are taking on Bath. Can you believe it, on the fixture list that I've got? That makes absolutely no sense at all. But most importantly, can you believe that? Can you believe that? I'm going to have a word with those people. But the Leicester Tigers and Gloucester, for me, that is the number one fixture for this weekend, Rich.
Yeah, very much so, Dominic. And suddenly one that I'll be looking forward to trying to catch over the weekend, that's for sure.
Rainbow Pro 12 Direct as well continues this weekend. We'll just cast our eye back at what happened on Boxing Day. Ospreys continued their superb season with a 32 points to 3 victory over the Scarlets. The Cardiff Blues edged the Dragons 12 points to 10. Munster came out on top against Connacht by 16 points to 12. Treviso beat Zebra 10 points to 3. Glasgow Warriors defeated Edinburgh 23 points to 14. The Scarlets just edged the Cardiff Blues, their 9 points to 6. And Ulster came out on top against Leinster by 27 points to 19 in the big fixture. Ulster are undefeated so far in the Rainbow Pro 12 Direct, in 11 played so far, sitting at the top of the table on 47 points, running away with it at this stage. The Scarlets are in second on 38, followed by Munster on 33. So tremendous stuff there from Ulster. And the fixtures for this weekend on Saturday, the last for 2012, Treviso host Zebra, Edinburgh host the Glasgow Warriors, Munster host Ulster. Another cracking encounter there. Leinster host Connacht, and then on Monday, the 31st of December, the Dragons host Ospreys. That's your rugby for this weekend and for 2012. We're just going to quickly go back to rugby, if I may, Rich, and just finish off with England and where you have seen them overall this season, finishing off the autumn international rugby season with a fantastic victory despite losing to South Africa and Australia, but a fantastic victory over the All Blacks.
Well, throughout the Six Nations, we saw a gradual improvement, and initially Stuart Lancaster was handed the job on an interim basis, and but such was the style of play and the form that England began to show towards the end of the Six Nations. He was then handed the job, and I think rightly so. And at the beginning of the autumn internationals, people were beginning to question that decision, and I think that probably stemmed from the losses against South Africa and Australia, which many people thought were more as a result of bad captaincy, bad decision-making. But ultimately, for some reason, Lancaster was also put in the firing line. But even throughout those losses, there was a lot to encourage England rugby fans, and a lot to applaud as well. And I think what we saw was just a little bit of ring rustiness. But in terms of the way the team is heading, I think the future looks very, very good for English rugby, and I'm not surprised that many of the New Zealanders after that game said, beware of England in the next World Cup, because this team, they're a young team, and they are developing, and they've got some superb young talent coming through, and we've already seen that with Owen Farrell. There's many more that we've talked about. And who can forget the impact that Joe Launchbury has made this season, to the point where Courtney Lawes, who only a couple of years ago was being vaunted as, you know, the next great...
Victor Matfield, very, very similar player to Victor Matfield, very athletic around the park. Great.
People saying that he was going to be the next great lock in world rugby, and now he's been eclipsed by Joe Launchbury. And you know, I was reading an interview with Courtney Lawes, and he said, I realise that I've got my work cut out if I even want to make the England team, never mind the Lions team. And it just goes to show that, I mean, how good Joe Launchbury is, because they're already talking about him, you know, as a shoo-in for the Lions.
What's impressed me most for England as well during the autumn international season is this flourishing relationship between Manu Tulagi and Bradley Barrett in the centre. Now, I've always been a big fan of rugby. Combinations are always massively important. Your half-back combination, your centre pairing, your back three and your two wingers and your full-back, your loose forward trio, your front row, your lock forward. They should operate as a team within a team. And Bradley Barrett and Manu Tulagi certainly showcased their skills against the All Blacks and throughout the autumn international summit.
Very
the
much
autumn international summit.
yeah, very much so. But to be honest, you know, you've also got to find a place for Owen Farrell, and with the emergence of Freddie Burns, who offers so much more in attack than Owen Farrell does, you know, one of those players has got to make way, and I think that unfortunately it's going to be Brad Barrett
in the centre. You think so?
Yeah.
What, for Owen Farrell?
Yeah.
That would be for me a huge mistake. Because
that's where Farrell plays for Saracens, and a lot of people do think that that's his natural position. I mean, inside centre, it's a far more defensive position. And you've got a caller on the line, Dominic.
We've got a caller on the line. We're going to bring you in. Good evening. You're on Talk Radio Europe Live. Welcome to the show.
Good evening. Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate you on your really good show, what you have every Friday. I listen to it every Friday without fail on my way home. And I hope you keep going next year.
Sorry, your name is?
Dexter.
Dexter, thank you very much indeed, Dexter. It's great to have you and everybody else out there that supports us. Whether we're going to be on next year or not, I don't know. I don't know whether you guys can tolerate us any further.
We can.
It's a great pleasure for us to have this platform to share our passion with you guys. And thanks very much for your support, Dexter.
Okay, great.
All right.
Bye.
More to the point, though, Dominic, can I tolerate you for a whole nother year?
Well, I mean, listen, we've tolerated each other, for about, 13, 14 years now. And not in
another year. Okay.
Not in a relationship, I might add, in a friendship. But, yeah, well, listen, you can leave right now, mate. You know? You can leave right now. You don't have to stay here. I'm sure I can find somebody else that knows more about sport than you.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, give us a ring in the studio if you think you can do a better job than Richard Tilsley. 951-036-026. The job is yours. It doesn't pay, by the way. You've got to give your time up for us.
Yeah, and you've got to be friendly, or try and be friendly with Dominic.
Oh, well, absolutely. It's my show.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But that's not...
Well, it's our show.
It's easier said than done, mate. I mean, you know, let's let the listeners into a little secret here.
What might that be?
Well, you know, you're quite difficult. You know, you're a typical South African.
Yeah, and?
Yeah, you guys are heavy going.
Well, I know I'm difficult. Ask my 12 ex-wives, for goodness sakes. They'll tell you the same, but that doesn't matter. I am who I am.
Yeah, well, we'll see how they get on.
Who? What?
The new listeners who come in.
Oh, I'm not going to substitute you. Don't worry. Nobody wants the job anyway, especially if it doesn't pay. Come on, admit that, Rich. Huh?
I don't know.
Anyway, well, let's kind of get serious for the last couple of minutes. I'm going to give you... we should have done that thing with Stuart before we let him off the line. You had this new... what do you call them?
A Morpholike.
A Morpholike. Okay, we'll give you a Morpholike...
Well, no, because the thing is, I was a bit too kind to him, really, in our pre-recorded New Year's Eve show. I want to wait until he's in the studio, so I can be even ruder.
And you Morpholiked me, didn't you?
Yes.
And meaning?
Well, someone said, how would you describe Dominic?
Right.
I'd say, well, imagine Martin Johnson and Buzz Lightyear.
Oh, that'll do.
Yeah. That's like Alex Ferguson.
How would you Morpholike him?
Well, he's like a cross between Rab C. Nesbitt and Obi-Wan Kenobi, isn't he?
Well,
I should say that
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
If you were to ask me to morph any Scottish person, I'd always precede it with Rab C. Nesbitt.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the go-to.
Well, look,
It's the
we've
go-to
got
more
2
for
more
all
minutes in
Scottish people.
2012. I was going to say 2013. But a little bit more sports news I just want to give, because the tennis season, tennis fans, yes, it's finally beginning. The Mubadala World Championship, World Tennis Championship, it's an exhibition tournament, but it is the beginning. The Australian Open not too far away. Unfortunately, Rafael Nadal has had to withdraw from both the Mubadala and today, only a couple of hours ago, from the Australian Open, which is terribly sad news for tennis fans and for Rafa fans. Of course, he hasn't been seen on a tennis court since his first or second round exit at Wimbledon. Unfortunately, that's going to be delayed, which is not great news. And not great news for Andy Murray either, unfortunately. He began his tennis season with a loss to Janko Tipsarevic yesterday in the Mubadala. But of course, it is an exhibition. It is their first match. But from a mental point of view, Andy Murray says he feels he's in good shape.